Hey everyone, it's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and today I'm going to talk about the Corsair HS55 Wireless Core. This is a $100 wireless headset that has Bluetooth, although not simultaneous. I'll get into that. But it works on PC, it works on Mac, and it works on PlayStation. And thanks to the Bluetooth, it works on mobile devices and the Nintendo Switch. This dongle actually works on the Nintendo Switch when it's docked as well, which is pretty cool. But either way. Now, this headset was sent to me for review by Corsair, so I want to give a huge thanks to them. It will not change what I say about the headset. It never affects my reviews. I'm always honest and open, which has led to some other brands not being so happy in the past, but I'd rather be truthful because that's better for the long run of the headset. So I actually do like a lot of things about this. We'll get into all that. But I will put a link in the description below. I believe as of right now, this headset is not listed on Amazon. So I'm not doing the link for like kickbacks or anything. It's just to help you find it. I've only seen it on the Corsair website because it wasn't on bestbuy.com either, which is interesting. Maybe that'll change, or maybe my Google Kung Fu wasn't as good at the time. So either way, I'm going to get into everything. We're going to talk about specs. We'll talk about comfort and build quality, do the mic tests, talk about sound quality, both from a scientific measurement level and what I actually hear, the experience for music, games, movies, etc. And then some final thoughts on how it stacks up against the competitors. Now, as far as specs go, there's actually a lot to like about this headset. It has a 24-hour battery life, which is decent. It's not class-leading, but obviously enough to get through a full entire day of gaming. If for any reason it's completely dead and you want to play, a charge with the included USB A to C cable will get you 6 hours of game time in a 15-minute charge. This will not work as a data cable because the headset only works in wireless mode. So you can't plug this cable in and use it as a USB headset. You have to have at least both plugged in at the same time if you want to charge it. This cable is actually really nice too. It's pretty long, comes with a Velcro strap. It's rubber, it's not braided, but the jacket feels really nice. So it's typical of what I typically see with Corsair. Their accessories usually feel pretty solid. It's a USB-A dongle, which has insane range, like one of the longest wireless ranges I've had. SteelSeries, their recent ones, have actually had an excellent range. They've stepped up. And my older Corsairs had some of the shortest range. There's some science behind that, and I'll talk about what I think of why and how that's happening. But I was able to go over 50 feet away, even through a wall, and had no problem maintaining a wireless connection. So the range and stability is excellent. Now, this uses 50 millimeter drivers. Let me try that again. The drivers have a ton of bass. I'll talk about sound quality, but 50 mil is good for a gaming headset. That's typical. You get a lot in the 40s, sometimes 53 for like the HyperX stuff. But overall, 50 is pretty solid. It's rated for 20 to 20,000 hertz. That doesn't really mean anything. That's just, it's capable of producing some noise from 20 to 20,000. Doesn't tell you how much noise at those frequencies, but it's rated for that. Overall, I do like the way this thing kind of specs out at this price range. You typically do not get simultaneous Bluetooth on a sub $100 headset. You have to have two transmitters in there, two transceivers to handle data at both streams side by side, and that costs more money. That's why I usually don't see it under $100. The Xbox wireless headset is the only one I know of that has simultaneous Bluetooth under $100. But that headset is marred with other issues, in my opinion. Doesn't have a stable wireless connection to Xbox, at least anymore, because the Series X has a lot more issues. The microphone's pretty trash on that headset, and that headset needs a lot of EQ tuning to make it enjoyable, in my opinion. So this is more normal with what you get at this price range. As far as controls go, so I'm going to talk about comfort soon, but there's some interesting things. So there's a mic mute button, which is a tap to mute. It's not a push button, it's a digital button. In addition to flip to mute. Now the mic isn't detachable, which is kind of odd, but I guess at $100 it's more normal than not. So the HyperX is detachable, the Razer Barracuda X is detachable, the Stealth 600 Gen 2 is not. This one is not. So you get kind of hit and miss. But I've never seen a headset that has a tap to mute plus flip to mute, which is cool because I guess if you like this headset but you prefer one over the other, you can choose either one. Now, if you press and hold the mic mute button, that will enable side tone. The side tone is very weak on this headset, but it's there. I had to basically put the mic in front of my mouth, like right in front, to hear myself through it. It's accurate. It's not like it's delayed or anything, but don't expect a loud side tone, and there's no way to adjust it. The volume rocker is awesome. It's textured. Even though it's plastic, it has a really nice texture to it. Really good tactile feel. It's clicky. So I like that. What I didn't know is you can press in on the wheel. I didn't know this at first. I used it for a while, and I guess, you know, when you pick up the headset, you grab it like this. I turned on preset 2, which is bass boost. It is a ton of bass. Too much. So, and the whole time I was gaming, it was like a week or two of using it. I'm like, holy Nikes. This has way more bass than other Corsair headsets because the HS80 doesn't have a lot of bass, and neither did the Virtuoso. So I'm like, why does their $100 headset have so much? You can change that. So there's bass boost, there's home theater, and FPS. And the first preset is their stock preset, which was my favorite. I'll talk about sound more after. I always get excited about that. But you have a USB-C charge port, again, included cable. On the right side, you have a Bluetooth button and a power button. Now, what's weird is when you press and hold to turn this on, tapping it will switch between Bluetooth or wireless audio mode. So if you want to watch a YouTube video on your phone, just tap it. You can watch a video on your phone. Then when your game's queued up and you're ready to play, tap it again and you're back to your game. Now, when you are playing a game, you're connected through this. Let's say you're on PC or PlayStation and you're playing, you know, Apex or something. If you get a phone call, you'll hear the beep on the headset telling you have a phone call. You can tap the Bluetooth button to answer the call, and it's going to drop your game audio for the call. When you're done, either hang up on your phone or tap the Bluetooth button again, and then your game audio comes back. So even though it's not simultaneous for audio feed, it is simultaneous for maintaining a connection to both devices at the same time, which is cool. Well, it was weird that tapping the power switches from Bluetooth to wireless mode, but tapping the Bluetooth is actually a play pause button, even on PC. So, and it worked on Mac too. So if you're listening to music and you tap the Bluetooth button when you're connected with the dongle, it'll actually play or stop a track, which is cool. So you get a couple action functions built into the button. So it works seamless. Now, Corsair historically for me, the features I do get have always worked. The only headset that's ever given me issues or bugs is the 75XB, which is the Xbox direct pairing headset that they made. This, like, I hit it a few times by accident and went back and forth from Bluetooth to wireless. It was always a seamless switch. So just like my other experience with Corsair, the functionality has been very nice and intuitive. Now, when you go into overall design, this is a classic design. You have a swivel yoke, so you can lay around your neck. Clamp force is too tight for me around my neck, but at least it lays flat. Clamp force is actually medium to light, I suppose. Most headsets are about this clamp force. Some are stronger. It's not too strong of a clamp, and they can get away with a lighter clamp because this is such a light headset. It doesn't need a lot of pressure to maintain a good seal around your head. Speaking of good seal, this is full pleather, the leatherette material. It's removable if you twist it. It's kind of like an odd click. Angled baffle, which is really nice. That helps with the soundstage getting slightly in front of your ears. But leatherette has pros and cons. So part of that crazy bass performance is from these ear cups. They are deep, and the leatherette makes a nice seal, so you get extended bass because it's airtight around your head. You're not losing any of that pressure to leak out from an athletic fabric, sport weave, whatever. So they do get a little bit warmer because they're leatherette. I found that because these are deep and the way they're shaped, these were actually some of the best performing leatherette cups I've used, especially at $100, because you get the HyperX Cloud, the Core, the Cloud Core. Those things have a shallow cup, and my ears got hot so quick with that headset. It sounded amazing, but for real gaming every day, I had to constantly pull them off. That wasn't the case with these. These were much more comfortable. Not as comfortable as the Barracuda X, which has the sport fabric, but if you like bass, this is going to give you a bit more of that, and you get better noise isolation as well with these pads, so you block out exterior noise. So it's up to you if the leatherette is a good thing or not. It just impacts the sound. I don't know of any replacement pad. Honestly, if you're spending $100 and then buying a replacement pad because you want the sport fabric, just look at the HS80 because you're going to get a little bit better comfort overall and the sport fabric and a better mic for around the same price. But I do like these. These are also memory foam. And let's do this real quick because I'm trying to get more of the measurements and I guess direct objective research and stuff on every headset I do. So this little piece of plexiglass allows me to show you the pad compression. So let me angle that just right. And when you press, you can see how it kind of flattens out. And you see that it shrinks. Too strong of a clamp will actually close up the ear cup a lot, and you lose some of that, I guess this, I don't want to just say it's sound stage, but it does alter the sound quality. Because this clamp force is light, it's not going to distort the pad too much, and you maintain a really nice seal. Now, this is a really interesting memory foam because it feels stiff when you do this. It actually has a bit of resistance to it. However, on an individual press, just a poke, it's actually very soft and supple, which leads me to glasses comfort. These are one of the better, has to be like top 3 headsets for glasses comfort from a pleather pad. Usually pleather pads don't work as well with glasses because pleather is less forgiving. The pressure is harder to, I guess, distort the pad into a narrow notch like this, if you could see that on the camera. So I wore thin frames on it, and I wore my thick frames, and I can actually play and wear them for a longer period of time. I've had athletic fabric headsets like the Stealth 600 Gen 2 because the clamp force was higher, wasn't as comfortable for me for glasses. So these did a surprisingly nice job for glasses comfort if you're concerned with that. The headband is nice too. This is a nice soft foam and it goes all the way around. There's no hot spots or weird areas that feel kind of funny. Overall, it seems well made. I can distort and twist this quite a bit. You do get pivot, and like I said, you get swivel. It's not full swivel, but this is normal. Your ears, the way your head's shaped, you don't need the headset to swivel too much this way. I think you get it looks to me about 2 degrees, 3 degrees is minimal, but I could find that if I pushed it all the way back in the straight position, I don't have a perfect seal up here. So it depends on your head shape, but I would still be able to maintain a nice comfortable feel all the way around my ear.
So what would a Corsair headset review be without a mic test? And this is a really interesting headset because to me, this is probably one of the biggest faults, which is usually the opposite of every other Corsair headset. It's almost like the HS55 is opposite day at Corsair. Um, the microphone is okay. Tone-wise, it's not bad. Noise rejection-wise, it's actually pretty decent. The issue I have is they have such a limited bandwidth being allowed for the microphone, which means there's a lot of compression and some artifacts. So the signal that's getting sent back to your PC or PlayStation, whatever it may be, it's a very small file size, if you will. You're getting a lot of compression and artifacts and issues on the signal side, more so than the mic itself. I haven't reviewed it. I may just to play with it, but the HS55 wired version uses the same mic, and I'm sure it sounds significantly better than this because it's not hamstrung by the wireless dongle. So it is what it is. I think this is part of how they get such a long and ridiculous signal range on the transmitter because they're running a lower bandwidth. When you do that, you can go to a much farther range. The Virtuoso XT is a perfect example because it has the best wireless signal quality I have ever heard as far as clarity goes. But the range is atrocious on it. It's like 15, 20 feet through a wall if you're lucky before it starts to drop, where I can get 50 to 60 feet on this without any issues. So there's pros and cons. This is what the mic is. Moving on.
All right, now to talk about sound quality. And I've mentioned this in a few other videos. So if this is the first video or you missed the other ones where I said this, I've actually invested into headphone measuring equipment. I can do IEMs, wireless earbuds, headsets, headphones, etc. And fairly accurately. I actually bought a pretty expensive, robust system because I'm going to start including this with all of my reviews. So I wanted to show you the frequency response of the HS55 and then kind of explain what a few things mean. And you can see right off the bat, when I said this thing is bass heavy, there is a ridiculous amount of heft in that 50 hertz region. You can see this peak right here. So your sub bass, 30 hertz and below, there's a little bit of a roll off. It's a $100 headset, but there is a insane bass shelf at 50 hertz, which is going to make all the explosions, all your immersion stuff kind of have more of a hit, more of a slam to it. Then it's noticeably V-shaped. There's a big dip when you get into the mid-range. Now, all of that bass, it doesn't punch super hard. It is on the deeper side, not crazy deep like an EPOS headset. But it doesn't have like a lot of punchy bass either in that 120 to 150 hertz region. So like the Sony InZone headsets, for example, they have a lot less sub bass, but more of the hard hitting bass. So depending on what kind of bass you like, I wanted to kind of at least show you on the screen here what that looks like. There is a dip, and you might be wondering, hey, why are there two different lines here? Well, this is how the left driver matches up against the right driver on my headset, on my rig. Keep that in mind. This is my measurement. So use my measurements to compare against other headsets that I measure, not to someone else's measuring rig, because they have unique characteristics. However, I did this test numerous times. These are averages. You can actually see on the left-hand side here, it says average data produced. So I take at least 3 measurements, move the headset around, make sure it's accurate. There is a dip in the mid-range, not consistent from left to right, but it drops a lot from the 250 to 300 hertz region, and it stays fairly low and then picks back up right around 3000 hertz. There's a dip again at 4000 hertz, which is normal for most headsets and headphones. You have something called your pinna, which is your ear, and there's something called pinna gain, which amplifies 4000 hertz. So it will boost this up just a little bit here, just from the way your ear works, whereas the rig may not do it quite the same way. There is a peak at 6000, or let's see, this says 5700 hertz or 5.7 kilohertz. That is noticeable when you listen to things. I'll talk about how it sounds in a moment using adjectives and cool lingo, but I just wanted to show you how the frequency response was. And then I also want to show you what the EQ presets do, because that's super cool too. Bass boost. Holy cow, look at that mountain. That bass boost brings it up to 95 dB compared to 89 at the same setting. So there's another 6 decibels of bass, all without changing the 1000 hertz, like your mid-range low treble area. It stays almost the same, but there's just a massive bass shelf, and it is like too much. I played on that for a while without knowing it, and I was like, man, this is a little overkill. So I want to show you home theater. Home theater is right in between. It actually still boosts your bass. It boosts the highs a little bit as well. You can see in the upper treble here, there's a little bit of a change, but overall the sound quality is similar. You're really altering the bass performance more than anything else with this headset. And then if I go into FPS, let's turn off home theater. FPS is another bass boost, which almost every headset FPS drops the bass. For some reason, this one boosts it. And I checked this to make sure I wasn't crazy numerous times. And some of the treble is actually further reduced, which is really odd. I've never heard a headset that took this approach. It's actually not the most unsound approach, because when I did my tuning for Modern Warfare, I boosted some of the bass. And I didn't necessarily increase the highs on certain headsets. So they're onto something with that. It's just not what you typically expect. Now, my favorite profile is the stock one. I actually didn't like using the others that much because I don't need any more bass. It's already crazy bass heavy, and I felt like it was just a little bit too much for me. And just to break the stigma that a more expensive headset isn't going to have more bass necessarily, it's just a different sound profile, I wanted to show you the Corsair HS80 measured on the same rig. Significantly lower bass. You're talking like, let's see, this at 50 hertz, we're at 84 decibels, and then it goes all the way up to 95. So you're 11 decibels higher in bass on the HS55, a cheaper headset. There is a noticeably more present mid-range on the HS80. So if mids are important, or you just want a flatter sound, honestly less dynamic and impactful sound, it'll sound less exciting to a lot of people. The HS80 is a lot flatter. So now that I covered the measurements, let's talk about what that translates to in real life. Because ultimately, the measurements aren't how you enjoy a headset. It's how it sounds to you. It's how you use it every day. I just like using that because you can't hide behind it. It's fair, it's honest and open. So those measurements, what that translates to, lots of bass, a decent amount of highs, slightly recessed mids. So when you're playing, or let's just start with music, because I can keep that part kind of short. System of a Down's BYOB, pretty popular rock song. Really fun song to listen to. On a headset like this, it's going to color the song a little bit. It's going to change how it sounds on a more like audiophile grade headphone or speaker system. It's boosting the bass. The guitars of that song are going to have more heft to it, almost like the guitars are larger and the strings are a little bit thicker. It just warms it up. In addition to that elevated slam. It sounds good, and it's a different way to hear the song, but your mid-range and your vocals are just going to take a slight step back because of that V shape. Now, you can still have a slight V and have a great sound quality. If you go too extreme, it's just not that accurate. This is really skirting the line for me for having a little too much bass, but it wasn't bad. And I think when I get into the game side, you'll see why there's still some value on the HS55. Now, even though the bass was strong, the mids are actually good. It's not too sibilant, so it's not that sharp, ear-piercing treble. It's actually quite smooth. That 5700 hertz region does have a bit of a hard spike, but it's really narrow. So it's not noticeable on most songs. Every now and then, that little treble spike kind of stands out. And if you ever hear that and you buy this, now you know that's what 5.7 kilohertz sounds like. So when you're listening to a song like that, you hear the guitars and it's bassy and it slams, there's tons of kick to it, and then they don't ring quite as long as they would have on a more premium product. That's really the only downside to using a headset like this for music, as long as you're okay with the frequency response of it. It's just that decay that affects music a little bit. It sounds a little bit more compressed. Now, is that as much of an issue in gaming? No. And this is where I think there's some merit to the HS55 because it has 50 millimeter drivers, because it has that bass, the immersion and the effects sound so good, and it can make a lot of games really enjoyable. So if you're playing Battlefield 2042, one, bless your heart for keeping that game alive. Someone's got to do it, so I appreciate your hard work. The explosions in that game, there's no denying that the audio mix of Battlefield has always been excellent. One of the best FPS games when it comes to audio. They use Dolby Atmos on their mastering side, so you really get some incredible sound, and this showcases that extremely well. Even if you don't play Battlefield, watch a YouTube video of some Battlefield gameplay footage, Dolby Atmos demo, with a headset like this, and the explosions sound great. Now, you may not always want that extra bass. There's not really a lot you can do to subdue it, but I still found it really enjoyable, and those 50 millimeter drivers are really in good control of the sound. That's when I did my best wireless headset video. This was on my top list for under $100 because when it came to like a chaotic part of a game, there's explosions, you still want to hear footsteps, but there's like an airstrike and other things going on. These 50 millimeter drivers were a little bit more in control than what I got on my Razer Barracuda X 40 millimeter driver. So even though that can sound good for something more simple, and from measurements point of view, when it came to actually playing a chaotic scene, I was still able to distinguish the different frequencies and notes better. That's called layering and texturing. So the texturing and layering of this is really good for a sub $100 headset because I can still understand what's going on even when stuff is busy. And that helps a lot with gaming. Now, a headset in this price range, it's not going to totally change a game and make you an all-star where another headset would have made you terrible. You get diminishing returns, but this is on the upper end for performance for me at $100 on a wireless headset. I think most people will be happy with the sound quality. So I alluded to some competitors earlier. This is the third time I'm filming this review, by the way. The first time I filmed it, I didn't like how it came out. I didn't like that I forgot certain things or spoke too long. Shocker, I know. The second time I was filming it, I finished filming, took it on vacation with me to release my video and do my editing, and like a third of the footage was corrupt, which has never happened to me before. So here I am filming a third time. I didn't want to dig out all of the headsets again, but I do want to cover this. So the Razer Barracuda X 2022 edition also has Bluetooth, very comfortable, stronger clamp force, less bass, needs more EQ tuning, but can sound great for music, and I love that it has a mobile app to do your own custom EQ. Microphone is comparable to this. Overall, I say they're the closest competitors at $100. When you look at the Stealth 600 Gen 2, to me, that's probably the most competitive headset along with the HyperX Cloud Core for footsteps. So if you only care about sound quality for FPS, the 600, Stealth 600, and the HyperX are a little bit better, but they are marred by the Stealth having a really strong clamp force and an overly sensitive mic. And the HyperX doesn't have a great mic either and is honestly fairly uncomfortable for any remotely long gaming session. So think of a battle royale game where you can't finish a full game before your ears start feeling a little bit warm. That's the HyperX Cloud Core. That's my only nitpick with that headset. So as a full package, when you factor in sound quality, comfort, reliability with the transmitter, all this other stuff, the HS55 suddenly becomes a much more compelling headset at this price range. And to me, it's still one of my top picks for wireless at $100. So that about wraps up the review. I knew I would talk long. It doesn't matter if the product's cheaper, $2,000. I always have a lot to say. I really like the HS55. I think what's interesting about Corsair and what they do is it's just when you look at the whole package, I'm not as crazy about the sound quality per dollar factor. I think they're decent. They're not class leading. What I've liked about Corsair for every model that I've ever used from them, except the HS70 or the HS75XB, they are reliable. It's not a distraction from your experience. The game, the music, the movies, that's the experience. Your headset should be able to provide that to you without being a distraction or nuisance. So your friends shouldn't say, your mic sounds like crap. I can't hear you. I don't know what you're saying because the mic is too weak. You don't want to deal with terrible battery life or intermittent stutters, or sometimes the headset doesn't pair or connect because it's taken forever to connect to the transmitter. Those experiences stink, and those don't show up on spec sheets. So when I review headset, I'm really critical of things like that because if I'm selling this or giving this to a family member, those are the things I'm going to care about. I'm not going to tell them about all these frequencies, even though it's really important to me. It's not important to everybody, and it's not going to change how good your experience is. It's all the other stuff. So when you look at the whole package, this has decent sound quality, it has elevated bass. And if you're okay with that, you're going to really like this headset because I think at $100, you're getting so many amazing things thrown in where you can just plug this in and go play and have fun. And I think that's really what's one of the most important things to consider at the end of the day. So I hope you found this review helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check us out on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as well. The links are in the description. I hope you learned something new about this headset or audio in general by watching this, and I appreciate all the support you've all given me. Keep an eye on the channel. I have a lot of good stuff coming out, and I will talk to you again soon.